Hello, my name is Phillip Yuhas. I'm an assistant professor at The Ohio State University College of Optometry in Columbus, Ohio. I love my job because I get to wear 3 different hats to work every week. The first hat that I wear is that of a clinician. As an optometrist, I have the privilege of staffing the college's contact lens and ocular disease clinics. These clinical experiences allow me to work with a diverse group of patients, allow me to manage a wide array of ocular diseases and conditions, and allow me to work alongside some of the best and brightest optometry students in the entire country. Furthermore, clinical experiences lead to research ideas that I can use in the laboratory. The second hat that I wear is that of a teacher. As I mentioned, I work with 3rd and 4th year optometry students in the college's teaching clinics. I also teach a didactic course on the eye disease called glaucoma to 3rd year optometry students. Teaching forces me to stay up to date on the very latest technologies and literature available to eye doctors. I'm able to pass this information along to my students and along to my patients. The third and final hat that I wear is that of a researcher. My laboratory is interested in establishing the eye as an objective, accessible, and inexpensive marker for traumatic brain injury. Currently, there are no objective, accessible, and inexpensive ways to diagnose traumatic brain injury, and my laboratory is taking on this challenge. The CDC defines a traumatic brain injury as a loss of brain function due to a blow, strike, or jolt to the head or the neck. Penetrating head injuries can also cause a traumatic brain injury. In the United States, traumatic brain injury is not a rare condition, and its incidence is on the rise. For example, every year there are more than 2.5 million emergency department visits across the country caused by traumatic brain injury. Furthermore, there are nearly 250,000 hospitalizations every year caused by traumatic brain injury. Some segments of the population are more susceptible to traumatic brain injury than others. For example, members of our military are more likely to sustain a traumatic brain injury than other populations. Since the year 2000, there have been over 350,000 cases of traumatic brain injury amongst our soldiers serving in the Middle East. The effects of a traumatic brain injury can be devastating. Typically, traumatic brain injuries are classified as being either mild, moderate, or severe. Most cases of traumatic brain injury are classified as mild, but don't let that classification fool you. Even a mild traumatic brain injury can cause significant difficulties for the patient who suffers from it. For example, systemically, people who suffer from even mild traumatic brain injuries can experience headaches, loss of sleep or sleep disruption, anxiety, and depression. Mild traumatic brain injuries can also affect the eye. For example, people with mild traumatic brain injury often complain of double vision, an inability to focus, blurred vision, and photophobia. Photophobia is an aversion to light. The economic toll of traumatic brain injury is great. People who suffer from even a mild traumatic brain injury often have difficulty returning to work, returning to their military units, or returning to their sports teams. As a result of this loss of productivity, traumatic brain injury costs the American economy billions of dollars each year due to lost productivity. The faster we can diagnose and the more accurately we can diagnose traumatic brain injury, the more quickly patients can get treatment and management for their disease, and the more quickly they can return to their military units, to their offices, and to their sports teams, and contribute once again to society. Most people don't know that the eye is an extension of the brain. The back of the eye is coated by a delicate tissue called the retina. If you were to think of your eye as a camera, the retina would be like the film in the back of the camera. The retina captures light and converts the light into electrical signals that the brain then forms into an image. The retina is composed of cells called neurons, just like the brain is. And the neurons of the retina connect directly to the neurons of the brain. Therefore, my lab believes that changes caused by traumatic brain injury in the brain may also be detected in the retina of the eye. This might be good news because currently the diagnosis of traumatic brain injury depends on a good patient history, asking about falls or blows to the head, assessing patient symptoms, and perhaps performing a brain scan called an MRI. This method of detecting and diagnosing traumatic brain injury is subjective in nature often, and scans like an MRI don't always detect changes in the brain that are caused by a traumatic brain injury. On the other hand, the eye is a very accessible organ. In fact, clinicians, optometrists, and ophthalmologists across the country every day assess the retina with the microscopes and the lenses in their clinical offices. Furthermore, there is a wide array of well-developed, inexpensive, and easy to perform scans that can assess the health and the structure of the retina, and there are also other clinical tests already established that can measure the function of a retina. My lab believes that changes in the brain caused by traumatic brain injury also occur in the retina, and we're working to establish this link. If we're successful, we can then measure the structure and the function of the retina after a blow, a strike, or an assault to the head or neck to look for signs of a traumatic brain injury and potentially make a diagnosis of traumatic brain injury very quickly, very easily, and objectively. An objective, accessible, inexpensive way to detect traumatic brain injury using the retina of the eye would have direct benefits for many in society. By detecting and diagnosing traumatic brain injury early on in the disease, we can get the patients the treatment they need, the management they need for their symptoms, which can in turn get them back to their offices, to their military units, and to their sports teams in a faster, more efficient, more cost-effective manner than what we can currently do. This will allow people who have suffered traumatic brain injury to return to their productive and healthy lives and happy lives in a very quick and very efficient manner.